Lone Hoop Media presents our first full-length comedy horror audio film, Fetid Souls, coming summer 2021.
Where are we, Pearl?
Welcome to the goddamn residence. Home is where the heart is. Your mom said it was okay if you stayed with me until your fever broke and you were healed.
She did?
Absolutely, honey. Fresh country air is just for the faint of heart. It's just what the doctor ordered. Chuck, Rebecca, Siren, time for me and Mel's Ruby anniversary soiree. Come on, show yourselves.
Chuck and Rebecca pop their heads out of the room to the left, giggling with excitement, with colorful cardboard, cone-shaped party hats on. Pearl smiles with matriarchal approval.
Where's your new friend?
She's right here.
Chuck turns to Siren.
It's okay. Pearl's not mad at you anymore. I don't think.
Chuck slaps the party hat on Siren as she stands there emotionally numb. Pearl reaches out and takes Chuck's party hat off and puts it on her own head. Chuck is saddened until Rebecca produces a new one for her.
Alrighty then, let's go. I got the car already loaded up with the covered dishes.
Shotgun!
No. Now, Chuck, your new cohort in crime gets that honor.
Pearl takes Siren by the hand and Chuck and Rebecca scurry behind. They go up the basement steps and through the washroom's back door and out to the driveway. They pile into the Falcon. Pearl buckles her seatbelt, then has an epiphany and gets peeved. She rages with impunity at the others.
Don't forget to not buckle up for safety. Who does the governor think she is anyway? Making me put on my seatbelt under threat of fines? She can take her draconian laws and buckle up for a ride on the Pearl Express. But as for me and my car, we will serve the Pearl.
Pearl remains buckled but gives the stink eye to everyone else until they unbuckle their seatbelts. She punches the accelerator out of the long driveway and they move out on the open, isolated highway at breakneck speed.
Welcome to our podcast and strap in for Movie Monday. Hi, I'm Minky Madison.
And I'm Jack Green.
Today on Movie Monday, we discuss No Escape Room, the horror mystery thriller. The synopsis is, a father tries to impress his daughter with a fun escape room experience and quickly realizes it may have been a mistake. I gave it 2.5 kernels. What did you give it?
Actually, I was going to give it 2.5, but I gave it 3. Just because
That's funny. I debated that too. I went back and forth.
Yeah, it was a difficult decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's funny though that we had the same problem. Because I switched it actually seriously a couple times and it was between 2.5 and 3.
I think this is one of the first times where we're actually similar on our rating, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have been in the past, but I think it's rare. You know,
Yeah, it's definitely rare that it's exact like that. I think so.
yeah, and that we struggled with it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
funny. I'll be interested if it was for the same reasoning.
Yeah, that would be funny actually. Then only one of us needs to do the podcast because we have the same idea about everything. No, I'm kidding. Okay, stop and watch the movie first now or strap in for major spoilers. Did you have any favorite lines?
No, not really. I mean, I did like the dad's personality. I think he said some funny stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was like one favorite thing where I was like, oh, that's yeah, that was hilarious. That made me laugh or surprised me. I can't really say there was anything that stood
Right.
out.
Okay. Really, there was only one that did for me. It was when they were reading the eerie clues, kind of in the beginning almost, and the dad tries to engage with his daughter by saying, "What do you think this inventor was up to, huh?" And then Andrew's like, "Probably inventing." That was funny.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. The dad, he would just ask weird questions or say funny things.
Yeah, because he was just trying to connect and didn't really care, and then he was getting shot down left and right. But yeah.
Yeah. I felt bad for him. He seemed like he was a nice guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he was pretty likable, I would say.
Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot of stars that were recognizable to my eye, but when looking at some reviews, post watching the film, they said these people had been in a number of different TV shows.
Oh,
So they're not
okay.
famous for movies, but they've been in like different TV series that I had never seen.
I see. Yeah, I hadn't recognized him from anything either.
Mhm.
The young girl, maybe. She did look semi-familiar, but I don't know if that's just because she looks like other actresses or if I've seen her in something maybe in the past. So I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, that's quite possible.
Well, since we both weren't like too excited about this movie, I assume we both have mainly cons. So how do you want to do it? Do you want to take turns doing cons and or like start with our pros or what do you want to do?
Let's start with your pros.
Okay. It will be a short list. So I liked the uncertainty of the hostess dying and whether or not it was a real trap. And the idea of being stuck in an echo loop was an interesting concept to bring to an escape room environment. But I will note it was really funny that they had Melanie go through one door and come out the other more times than was necessary to convey what was happening. So it became comical because she just like kept doing the same thing over and over. Like, you know what I mean? I felt like it was like a 10-minute scene of her just walking around.
Well, yeah, the whole arc, of that scene was about 10 minutes. I don't know, the door thing. I liked it. I don't think they did too much. Did it about, I don't know, 2 or 3 times where she kept going through the.
Really? Then maybe it's just in my head. I felt like they did it, no joke, like 15 times. And I was like, we get it. Yeah, she's in a loop. We get it.
They
Like,
were repetitive.
I understand. Move on.
Yeah, they were repetitive with some elements of the movie, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on with Karen in that morgue.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay.
So I feel like that was
Little-
overdone. And her
Mhm.
appearing, the other woman appearing in the doorway, caught in that loop. It didn't seem like it was too long for me personally.
Oh, okay. That was probably just me then. I felt like I just kept seeing the same thing over and over, and I was like, am I in a like time loop myself? Because why the hell am I watching this 50 times?
Oh.
So yeah, so there's that. And then I think the sets were well done. I don't know, they look like they actually took some time and effort into those, so I think they were pretty nice to look at. And I liked the interactions between Tyler and his girlfriend Melanie, because Tyler was funny, like fully freaking out, while everyone else seemed only mildly nervous. So it was a funny contrast, and especially him tripping out on like seeing the parasites and all that stuff. So that was kind of entertaining. Huh?
No, I agree with you. Yeah, he was a funny character.
Yeah, he was probably my favorite, honestly. Like I did like the dad, but he was nuts, like just running around, like losing his mind.
It's
So
a shame because you didn't get to see much of him.
I know. That always happens to me. I feel like they kill the best characters, and then I'm just left with the pieces, going, "Why? Why did you do this?"
So
Anyways,
hopefully you'll have some more praise.
yeah, I do have two more. So I feel like the first half of the movie had a nice pace to it and held my attention, and then I actually did enjoy seeing everything play out. My problem was that it didn't continue, which I'll get into on my cons. And then my other pro was. I just realized that's not even a pro. I don't know why I put that in my pros. So that's more of like an ending thing. So anyway, yeah, I'm out of pros. That was really all I had.
Well, in terms of pros, I feel like even though this was filmed as a sci-fi special, basically on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Oh, it was? That's interesting because the genre is horror, mystery, thriller.
Huh. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, did you notice the fade to blacks throughout the film?
I did. So that explains that then. I thought that was odd.
So yeah, they had adapted it, and put it on Netflix, and evidently altered the genre a little bit. Though you could look at the supernatural elements of the short movie and see that could be construed as sci-fi.
Yeah, that's true. I definitely can see that with all the supernatural stuff. It just seemed odd that they wouldn't have it in part of the genre, but I guess they don't have to list everything possible that it could be
Yeah,
categorized as.
I like the film time. I feel if it would have went too long based on what the content offered, it would have made it an even more poor experience. It was an hour and 25 minutes about, so that it's a pretty decent amount of time for what they give you. And the
Mhm.
quality of the film, the sets were well done, and the acting wasn't bad. I mean, it didn't knock my socks off, but it was it was believable and to the point that I could enjoy it and connect with the characters enough to care. And I like the elements. I like the sci-fi and the horror, and naturally I like the idea of this escape room. Then with those elements thrown on top, I thought I was going to be in for a treat, because this was a little
Yeah.
different than other escape room movies, and I really enjoyed it in the beginning. uh, and even about midway, it carries you through. I will say it kept my attention throughout the whole thing, but the quality and my enjoyment of it waned by the midway point, and leading to an
Hmm.
ultimate conclusion that we'll be discussing. But yeah, that's really all the pros that I can think of.
Okay. So should I start in on the cons?
Yes.
Okay. So it kind of fell apart for me around the time the daughter gets stuck in that enclosure, which I think you mentioned. So I think you felt the
I
same
did,
way.
yeah.
Yeah, it got really draggy and boring and seemed to just show them walking around nervously for like far too long without anything new really happening to carry it along. And especially the revisit to the bathroom scene at the end. I think they thought the audience would forget that the waitress was in the bathroom stall too for some reason, but they were dead wrong on that because I was waiting for it the whole time. So it's just this overtly long lull watching a scene you already saw already play out again with no real payoff because you're like, oh, yeah, there it is. So I'm glad it kept your attention for the most part, even after it started getting really bad. But I was really having a struggle because I felt like it was so repetitious that I don't know, it was rough.
Yeah, I did. I just desperately wanted it to start coming together at some point, and with a narrative
Hmm.
that tied all everything that had happened together, and it didn't do that.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest con of all. Yeah, right there is because they clearly had a lot of cool ideas, in my opinion, with the phone and the echoes of the escape room, like the inventor and the five missing people, and yeah, that was
Hmm.
interesting, but they didn't do anything with it. And if you don't do anything with it, it's not going to matter. So the bathroom scene you're talking about, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I've seen it done in other movies, so it's not new. But I knew that
Hmm.
she was gonna, the waitress was gonna come out of the other stall. I just don't know why they needed to have a reason for being there, and there was no real reason. It's just what happened.
Yeah, you know what? That's funny. I was so bored that I didn't even really think about the fact that, yeah, it didn't really serve a purpose.
Yeah, like yeah, they were there for a reason. Yeah, if it tied together in some way to the greater narrative, then that's fine. That would be interesting. But it didn't, near I could tell. So
Yeah, I guess the only way it really did is that because that ends up being how they get out of the situation. So I guess it was necessary in the sense that it showed you it was kind of like a portal back to the diner. So I guess it was. It just my main problem is just it was so drawn out for God knows why.
yeah, I will agree though. The bathroom scene was drawn out longer than it really needed to be because the realization of that's where they were. That's enough. The reason you would
Yes.
continue it is you had to pay attention to the detail that was going on in that scene to
Hmm.
understand something, and there was nothing to understand except that they were back where they started. So
Yeah, it's almost like the director has seen that in movies and didn't realize there was more of a reason to it and just thought it was a cool thing to film or something. Because yeah, I felt like you're saying like there should have been more to it, but there just really wasn't. So you're just like, okay.
yeah, and it opens up an argument. Well, maybe we can discuss this a little later. Some of the philosophical implications of what was going on there, but we can put that to the side for
Oh, okay.
now. So you can continue on with your cons.
Okay, and I know you agree with this because we touched on it, but the ending was terrible and didn't really make sense. The glove box with the key to the car being locked.
Yeah, I do not appreciate that.
Yeah, that was super lame. It felt like they just like added that at the end for no reason.
Yeah,
And I thought everything stemmed from the house, right? So how did it affect the car exactly? Although I get, like we were just talking about, the diner was tied to it in a sense, so I guess it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility, but still just didn't really sit right with the rest of the plot. And it wasn't like anything was chasing them. They could just get out of the car and like find some other way. So it's not like it didn't, I don't think it gave what they wanted it to. What were you going to add?
Oh, I do agree with you. And I just was going to point out that I think we might have a different understanding of the ending. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that to be sure that to see what comes of that, which is.
Yeah, I hope there was something that I missed and it was much better.
Well, when they got in the car and they found the padlock on the compartment where the key would be, the key was said to be stabbed, basically, by the mechanic, per the note. After that, they give each other, like, puzzled looks. They're not really understanding what's going on and how is this possible. But then the camera view drifts towards the ignition of the car, and you kind of are taken through the ignition system and gears, basically, similar to the house. And your view ends up coming out of the lock on the front door of the escape room house, and you get to see like an image of the front garden in front of the house. And I think this is symbolizing that they never really left the escape room. So the diner and them in the car, like, they're still inside the house. That's what I took from it.
Oh, okay. I thought they were just trying to do some cool like credit thing, and I was like, this is lame as fuck, but okay, that makes more sense. Okay, well then I guess the ending's not so bad in my opinion then, now that you explain that, because I do see what you're saying. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, that's my interpretation, and I think you could argue, is there enough support to warrant that not only that's what they were going for, but that's possible. And I think it sets it up in the film when the father looks at the photograph of the lake and he's suddenly thrust into that setting of the picture and he's being like pulled by chains.
Oh my god, you know what? I think I'm just a moron. Maybe, honestly, I thought this movie was stupid, but maybe I'm just too stupid for the movie because I thought that scene was nuts and I didn't get it at all. And I didn't even realize it was like the picture was part of it. I thought it was just a picture on the wall, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's actually one of my cons I was going to get into, is I was like, what the f?
So it never explains the nature of the house, but apparently from the experiences that they had at that point, and then at the very end, apparently you can leave the setting of the house and still be within it somehow.
Well, that's actually kind of cool then.
Yeah, and you can drag stuff from that world back into the house with you, such as the mud that can be seen on the floor from the father's shoes when he was in that setting of the painting with the lake.
Oh, I didn't notice that either. I kind of, it already had lost me, so I missed some of the...
There was actually some mud on the floor before he even went into the painting, suggesting that there's this theme of echoes where perhaps he had already been in the painting, and that's where the mud on the floor came from.
Well, then I probably actually would give it a 3 then, knowing these things. So I see where you came up with your 3.
Yeah, like I said, it was difficult because it had such, once again, sort of like the movie The Invitation, it had some promise to it, and it failed, unfortunately, to deliver on any of that.
Right, yeah. It's funny because, my next con is actually about the wall. I put, and the random supernatural things happening in the house, like when the wall fell down and the dad was in the forest in chains from a lake and started choking him, then ended up being totally fine and back in the house. It just made me go like, okay, because they really did kill Tyler and like very quickly. So like, why are they just fucking with these other people? And what makes them decide to just give up on certain ones and not others? Like, there didn't seem to be any kind of like rhyme or reason for things. And the spirits are like hallucinations or like what's causing it exactly. They never went into that. And the safe word awake worked for Tyler like right away, but not for anyone else. And granted, he was murdered, but I'm just saying, like, by saying that something happened to him, like, it actually affected what's going on, and it didn't seem to for anyone else.
So that's quite a bit there, and I think I can unpack some of that. Yeah, we can talk about it.
Okay.
Well, dealing with the painting and the dad, I feel that their mother, and his wife maybe had passed away. I think something was alluded to that, maybe early in the beginning of the film. And the woman in the lake might have been his wife, and she had come out and held him and was like kissing on him, and then all of a sudden he's covered in chains that he's being kind of torn apart or drug into the lake. And I think maybe that was his demon, basically, was letting go of his wife, that he couldn't do that, and it was literally chains were symbolic of his, his connection to her that were crushing him and his relationship with his daughter, which is why he even came to the escape room.
That's funny. So if I had watched this with you sitting by me explaining these things as it was happening, I would have liked it better.
Yeah, so I think that was a symbolic representation of his connection with his wife, and then
Yeah.
it also leads to a suggestion of maybe how the escape room or this house interacts with people. You look at Tyler. I don't believe the word awake worked for him necessarily. He said it, and then something happened right after that, where he gets pulled through a door. So you naturally would assume that the
Right.
awake word woke, like, helped him. But we
Right.
don't know that. It's the two things occurred simultaneously, but they could have been unconnected. And we get to see what pulled him through later in the movie, which is this shadow figure of a man. And we could argue that he was a very nervous person that was scared of the unknown and scared of darkness, basically. And the shadow man, that's not even a real person, like, pulled him through the door. And we find him dead later. So maybe, like, the picture with the chains and the dad, that was his fear and his struggle. And the shadow man and the unknown and fear itself was Tyler's struggle. So,
I
and
see.
then I would have to look at it and say, well, what are the struggles of the other two characters?
Well, the daughter must have been like having issues with claustrophobia then, if each thing meant something like that.
Yeah, maybe claustrophobia, and she was young, and she's a young girl, whereas the others weren't, and she was trying to navigate her life and being a teen and growing into a woman and developing her relationship with her father, which a lot of that played into, you need to trust me, Dad. That's what she would often say in the film, and I can do this. And she kind of, he ventured down through this window in one of the rooms, and because she was small enough to do that. And it was kind of a way of her breaking away from her father and gaining some independence, and becoming a leader, actually, in the struggle to leave the house. So I don't know if the house was testing her in that way. It separated her. So maybe that was a fear of hers, is being confident in herself to actually navigate her life. So you can make an argument for that. It might be a little loose logic I'm using here. And then you look at the other guy. What's his name? I can't remember. Andrew. He said his psychologist or therapist had told him he needs to work on interacting with other people. And so I don't know how the house would have tested him. Do you recall his death scene where he's in the ventilation shaft with Karen, and he kind of gets pulled away, and then you just see blood coming out of the vent, suggesting he was, I don't know, crushed somehow or injured.
Yeah, I think it was maybe like the fan for the.
That's a good guess. That's what I would go with, because I can't think of anything else that it alluded to that would hurt him. So he got along with Karen. He kind of was working with other people, and he was using humor in the beginning by saying he worked for the house and he knew the secrets and he was part of this. So it's kind of an odd, interaction with other people. But yeah, he kind of bonded with her, and so he's kind of working with other people, and he kind of overcame that type of struggle.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to explore there. That's not at face value that you can really think about. So what other cons do you have? I think I covered everything that you had mentioned.
Yeah, I just have two more. Basically, in the beginning, you know how they made Karen the daughter an utter asshole to the dad?
Yeah.
They named her accordingly because her name is Karen. Yeah. But they made you hate her. But then shortly after entering the escape room, she pulls a 180 and is much nicer to the father and everyone else, which seemed to only be because she was attracted to Andrew, which is messed up in a way. I don't know. I felt like it was either out of character or like she's just concealing being a bitch.
Yeah.
Because it was such a big change in not very much time. Like the only thing that changed was she didn't have her phone, I guess, and she was with some guy that she thought was attractive, and now she's suddenly nice to her dad.
Huh. Yeah, I mean that's something to consider there on, what were her motivations and why was she acting the way she did? Because there was a stark change to how she was treating him. So yeah, you could argue multiple various reasons for why there was a change. I mean, maybe when she first got into the escape room, I don't know if she was enjoying that, and she did see a potential romantic interest in Andrew, and she kept away from her dad, and her dad kept trying to intrude between them, and make comments. And
it's a good change anyway. I would prefer her like that than being a dick. It was just weird to see her be a total dildo muffin, and then not very long after that, you know what I mean, being kind of sweet and everything. But I guess you're right though. I think she was mainly avoiding her dad kind of and being sweet to Andrew, which would be
until things got scary in the house, and then she clung to her dad. She didn't want to
Yeah.
lose him, and she wants to survive, and I think she's just in a bad mood. We don't know. She's a young teen, and we don't know what her backstory is. Like I said, with her mom, she rides horses. We did learn that, and I don't know who rides horses. I think it's like, wouldn't it be like more wealthier people that ride horses recreationally?
Uh, I think it depends. I think wealthy people normally have their own ranches and things, but it's not that expensive to actually go somewhere and pay to ride horses.
So yeah, I just was trying to maybe infer about her character, what person she might be, or experiences she would have had access to.
I have one last con and it's really just a random nitpick, but I thought Karen deciding to reach into the toilet after Andrew was just really odd because he already did it and already, you know what I mean? Like he already took the plunge. Like, why wouldn't you just let him continue with it? Why would it make sense for you to both have shit on your hands when it could be avoided? I can understand if there's some way he couldn't do it, but he obviously could. And then she acted like it was some brave feat, and I'm just like, you're a weirdo. Like, why are you? Like, I don't know. It's not like they had a sink to wash their hands, so like only one person should have done that. I don't know.
I agree. It was a little odd in terms of both their characters. It was a little odd for that to be their response in terms of how they worked that out. I can go into my cons now if you want.
Yes.
Well, as I said, I think it had a lot of potential. It was a good story, but here's where it started to go downhill for me. And I believe it was the same place you mentioned, which is Karen. And her being away from them, she crawls through a window, gets led away by this spirit, or we don't really know. And as soon as she's securely into this other room, the door locks behind her, and the other door where the other people were kept opens up. So you think, oh, this could be getting interesting. But you would be wrong. Because what happens is she gets spooked, and then she ends up crawling into this like hole, this cubby, like where there's this other body. And I just really don't understand the significance of that. I don't understand what was going on. It was a little dark, but more just confusing in terms of what was happening. She was hearing noises, I believe, and she was just spooked by that. So she crawled into there, and that scene went on for a while.
That was a ongoing theme for them is let's drag it out as long as we can. But the only thing that I could figure why she was doing that is because she thought somebody that wasn't like someone she knew was out there walking around or whatever. But I don't think they really showed that. It was more of a guess because otherwise it didn't make sense.
I agree. And so, what's going on with her isn't particularly interesting. And then you're like, well, maybe she's just going to be a plot device for something else that's going on. And the others aren't really doing anything of significance either. They're kind of wandering around, and Andrew and Dad are kind of fighting a little bit, on what to do next. And I just didn't like the chaos that was kind of going on there because it wasn't rewarding. It was more just confusing, and it felt delineated where they weren't really moving towards anything. It wasn't particularly interesting what they were saying either. They go into that room with the film. It's kind of like an attic, I guess. And they kind of figure out a way to get out of that room. But do you say her name's Danielle? I think that's what her name was.
Which one?
Not the daughter, the other woman.
The girlfriend of Tyler?
Yeah,
that was Melanie.
I was thinking of Danielle. But yeah, then we get her death scene, basically. And you think it went on a little too long with her caught in that loop between the two doorways. It didn't make sense to me. I thought they were doing something really cool with the phone where she's actually called herself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was kind of neat. I think you mentioned too, because I have seen similar things in movies, but it still was neat.
Her boyfriend's death. So her seeing him prompted her to answer the phone and be in that emotional state that her previous self reacts to, and then prompts her boyfriend to say awake, which gets him taken out of the room to his death. So it was just a weird loop there as well.
Yeah.
But once again, if there's no significance to that, why do I care? And that was, there was no significance to it, as from what I could tell. It just.
Yeah, if you can't tell that there's you'd be the one to know because you picked up on a lot more than I did. So if you don't think there is, there probably wasn't.
It was supposed to be where this loop occurred, this outcome loop of events, but it didn't give a reason why other than they were in the house that allowed for it to happen. And so they were a casualty of the causality loop that they couldn't foresee or break free from, I guess, which is their plight, I guess, in the film. But so that kind of bothered me.
And I have a
Yeah, what
sorry,
were
I
you gonna
didn't
say?
mean to interrupt you.
No, it's
I don't know, something just popped into my head. It's not even on my notes or anything. Like I already went through them, but I think her name was Jolene or something. Josie
yeah,
maybe, whatever. The
hmm
hostess lady. Yeah, so I'm trying to understand like why she was trying to help them and like why was it a real escape room maybe at some point in the past and then it like somehow got taken over by the supernatural and she was just kind of stuck in the loop as well?
Oh, I
Or
100% agree. They don't explain any of this, at least not properly
yeah.
for a film, unless they want you to infer and guess about these things. So yeah, I don't know the answer to any of those questions.
Well, dang it. I was hoping you had some more insight on that because I was like, what?
Yeah, because if you recall when Karen and the dad first enter the house, which kind of miraculously opens on its own after they knock, so they go in there and then they
Hmm.
run into, what did you say her name was? The hostess,
Yeah, I'm guessing
Jolie.
it started with a J. I didn't write it down because I didn't even think. Yeah, Jolene or
It
Josie or
was
something. I
Jolene, I
can look.
believe. She
Okay.
reacts like she had already expected them, if you recall. She said they had been waiting for them, and
Yeah, but I just kind of assumed because normally, like, if you go to a place like that, they normally have set times. Like at 3 p.m. we have another one, or So I thought they were just showing up to a time slot.
so
It's Josie, by the way. I just looked it up.
so yeah. Well, the reason I don't think it's that, it gets into a little bit of the philosophical side of things, in the sense that it's like free will versus determinism. Like they always went to the house, they always went to the escape room, and they couldn't have done otherwise. Because if you recall, when she's in the bathroom at the restaurant, she reacts to the noises coming from the stall, which is actually her and her dad. So it's this loop that it already happened.
Hmm.
So they never really made the choice to go there. They already had went there. But then who made the choice? So I don't.
You know what? That's a good point. That actually makes it more interesting because I think whoever goes into that diner, maybe that's how you actually get into the loop. So the moment they walked into that diner, because that hostess was probably part of the loop already too, because obviously she was when she goes in the stall later. You know what I mean? So actually, that makes it
Yeah, she's
better, I
the
think.
hostess. I mean, not the hostess, but the waitress. At the diner.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
No,
think
it's
I
okay.
messed up and
Yeah, I
said
know what you
hostess, but yeah, I meant
exactly
the.
what you meant, because she's complicit in my mind, and this one that really recommended the escape room and had a little bit to say about it in a particularly disturbing way.
Yeah, but my thinking is she was in the loop too, just like the actual hostess lady was. You know what I mean? Like I think the moment they walked into that diner, that was part of. They were already
Yeah,
kind of trapped in it. But I mean, this is interesting. I think that would be more interesting. So I'm kind of hoping that's
yeah,
what they
it's
wanted.
very possible. I just She had a creepy vibe to her, but then again, so did Josie. So, and that wasn't really Josie's fault. They seem to be caught up in something that disturbs them and makes them weird.
Yeah.
So, and in the lore of the escape room, Josie talks about how the small town had been affected by what the inventor did, and so that would include the diner, and it would include the
Hmm.
highway maybe where the car breaks down. So, when exactly did they enter the effects of this escape room? We don't know, but it's clearly very pervasive if it can affect them that far out. And
Yeah.
I mean, with the involvement of his wife or this woman in the portrait in the house, did it affect the wife's death? Like, when did they exactly get caught in the escape room? And yeah, maybe her death was a result of that somehow. So I don't know.
Maybe the room can somehow read their
Yeah,
thoughts.
maybe a lot of mystery there. I still don't understand the hand in the toilet. Like,
Yeah, yeah. It seemed like they just like kind of peppered it with stuff that didn't make any
yeah,
sense at all. But
this film feels almost as if they just brainstormed a whole bunch of ideas, and there's a few winners in there. But if you brainstorm in that way and include it all in one narrative, that's not coherent. It's not going to be a good time, through and through.
it's just like
Yeah, and
horror soup.
just like any meal, you can enjoy some of a meal, but not the rest of it, depending on what's in it. So,
Hmm. I will say, from after talking with you about it, I think I would change my rating to the 3, just because it made more sense now, knowing the things that
yeah.
you saw in it. So that was my main problem with it, I
Well,
think,
yeah,
and the
you can't get
boringness.
around
But
that. So, like I said, that autopsy room or whatever it was she was in, like it, it's as if you were watching a play, and about halfway through the play, all the cast break their characters and kind of talk a little bit. and you're like, what's going on? I
Hmm.
don't understand. You know, what I mean? Like, because it just dissolves. Like,
You know what I think it might be? This is probably not the case, and it's probably dumb to say, but do you think the movie wasn't long enough to be considered a movie, so they kept more of the footage that they normally would have cut out just to extend the length? Because it's not even that long. You said
yeah,
it's like an hour and 20 minutes, right? That's barely the length of the movie. So do you think they did that to make it longer, to make it actually be
very
officially a
well
movie,
could
do you
have.
think? Or
Yeah,
because that's how it felt. It felt like stuff that normally would be cut but was
yeah.
included for some
Well,
reason.
if you factor in the multiple commercial breaks that they had, or would have had, if they had not fade to black, that would have extended it to an hour and 40 minutes or something. Because each commercial breaks like, I don't know, 10 minutes probably.
That's true. I meant more like because if they release this on DVD, say, and I don't even know, I don't even think it's regulated where it has to be a certain amount of time to be officially a movie, but maybe it is. It's just a thought because that's how it felt. But you're right. It probably had nothing to do with that. I just don't
Yeah,
understand why. I'm just trying to give a reason
that was
to be
cool. I
dumb, I
mean,
guess.
in the first room, they were talking about, Andrew was talking about, there was a theme running through the house, which was communicating with the dead. And they had the mask with that drug. I can't remember what it's called. Ayahuasca. They had that, and then they had the
Hmm.
phone in the next room of the house that dealt with talking with spirits. So, like I said, it was really cool. I had gotten all excited for nothing. So it's kind of sad.
Aw. Yeah, that's a good point, though. They did have a good underlying storyline for the rooms. That was nice.
Yeah, and did you in the film room with the girlfriend, um, um
Melanie.
Melanie?
I only know because I wrote
Yeah,
it down because I knew I wouldn't know either. So
with Melanie,
I had to look
did you see the sheets that were hanging up in the room, and she started seeing handprints on the sheets around her, like shadows, and it was so it's almost as if it was this shadow creature that lurked unseen in the house, and it got the inventor,
Oh, that's the
yeah. So
inventor, is what you're
it
saying.
grabbed the boyfriend when he was
Yeah.
saying awake, and I don't know if it was because he was saying that or it just grabbed him, and then it pushed her, or it led her up that ladder. She fell and got her head impaled basically through the eye on this spike, and it must have grabbed
Mm-hmm.
the other guy in the elevator shaft, Andrew, and yanked him into a fan. And right
Right.
before the daughter and the father escape into the bathroom of the diner, you see the inventor, the shadow figure, coming through the door, like, and he's full form at that point where you can actually see him.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah. So I don't know what that was all about, like why they were able to escape without him getting them, or maybe they were walking into, what he wanted them to do. Like maybe that's where he wanted them to go anyway, was into the bathroom.
Well, if what you said about the ending is true and they're still in the house, then technically they didn't win and like didn't escape because they're
Yeah.
still there and he's probably after them.
Yes. But yeah, I've kind of exhausted my list of cons.
Yeah, mine are done as well. So I guess you can end it out.
I think this was best to be kept on, as a very short movie on Sci-Fi Channel. I think it has a better home there than it does on Netflix.
That's true because most people have lowered expectations on something like that.
Yeah,
On a
it's
channel
something
like
you
that, rather.
stumble onto in the middle of the night or on a weekend, and you watch, and you're not setting yourself and your expectations up for something amazing. And I think you'll be more appreciative of it that way. Now, when you go to Netflix, though, it has a different intent, or at least in my opinion, it has a higher intent of actually looking for something, and with a higher quality level. But aesthetically, it does pretty well for itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would not have pegged it for a sci-fi original, but it appears that that's what it was. So I don't know.
Yeah, they definitely have bigger and bigger budgets for that, huh? I remember watching some sci-fi movie type things in the past, and they did not, because this looked like a real movie. Like I
Yeah,
wouldn't have known
I
it was
really
made for
do.
TV.
I agree. And I mean, Sci-Fi Channel had Cube, the first Cube movie, and that was very good. And that was a sci-fi
That was
original.
good.
Movie. It was
That was a
on
sci-fi movie?
Sci-Fi
What the
Channel.
hell? I think that was made for the Sci-Fi Channel. That's crazy. That
Yeah,
was
it was
super.
weird. I
I
just
want to
recall
watch that
previews
again.
for it. I still remember vividly, the commercial, watching it on TV, and I was like, huh. I was like, but it's going to be on Sci-Fi, so it's probably not going to be very good. But I ended up watching it, and I was like, wow, really fun and unique. I hadn't seen something like that before, and the acting was pretty decent, and the special effects were decent
Yeah.
for the time, and so they're capable of producing really great stuff. And it's just a shame this. I don't think it met that level, but it certainly had the potential to. It just didn't fulfill on that. And maybe it could have been that it tried to blend in metaphors maybe about life, and so yeah, it might have been just too deep for its audience.
It was too deep for me,
'Cause I liked it
you've
just
pointed
as
out. Yeah. I wonder if they're like the direct. I don't know if I'm cutting you off, by the way, because you've been chopping out a bit, but I'm sure it's picking it
Oh,
up.
no.
So let me know if
What were
I'm
you gonna
cutting
say?
you off. Just that I wonder if the writer or director wrote, because sometimes especially something like this where people don't feel super satisfied because maybe they don't understand what they were going for or something, they'll write up what they intended. So I wonder if there's anything like that online that we could read and just get more in-depth insight on
Yeah.
what they were going for.
I'd like for that to be the case, because it would kind of redeem it somewhat, and it would remove the stigma from the movie and place it into just a different category, in my opinion, of what type of movie it is. Which, yeah, some are heavily philosophical and deep in metaphor. So I would like for that to be the case. But I would say,
Yeah.
give it a shot. Just know what you're going in for. Basically. Prepare yourself. I still think it's enjoyable. So yeah, that's a wrap.
Huzzah!